Hello, John here. Okay, so this video, I'm not going to go too much into my particular history of addiction. I will be doing it at some point. I want to give just a very brief outline for somebody who is an addict or for the family of or friends of someone that they feel might be suffering from an addiction. Now, I always like to work on the principle with addiction of 50-50. 50% genetics, we can't help, and 50% is the addiction. And I say this because addiction is a mental illness in itself. I'll go into it in another video properly. I've had past addiction to alcohol. I'm 3 years sober. I've got an ongoing gambling addiction. One quite big, excuse me, one big relapse recently. And I think right. Okay. I'm gonna tackle the first 50%. So this is the 50% that we cannot help. Okay. So with our DNA, we are more vulnerable to becoming addicts. I don't know why. I don't know how DNA works that way, but it does somehow. It doesn't even need to be your mum, your dad, your grandparents, great grandparents. This could, this family gene could go back centuries. Do you know what I mean? Um, and I think it's extremely important to give yourself some empathy and remember that you're not a bad person, and even though you might be making some bad choices, it doesn't mean that you're horrible. And just try and be kind to yourself. For someone who's watching somebody go through an addiction, I only know what it's like through hearing the accounts of what I've put my family through. And some family members enable it, some family members you fall out with over it. Now, I'm got a pretty mutual agreement with my family on these blogs, about what I kind of go into and I don't go into. And my alcohol addiction did cause quite a lot of friction. At the time, I didn't see it because I thought I was right, or maybe I couldn't accept it. But I was self-medicating, and like I said, I'm an ongoing gambling addict. So 50%, we can't help. It could be opportunity, it could be planned, it could be anything really. An old memory that triggers a relapse or a lapse. It depends how you look at it. Now, I want to focus on the other 50%, which is the parts that we can help. Now, as addicts, take it from someone who knows. You can't kid a kidder, because I've been there and I've worn that t-shirt. Addicts make excuses, and I'm the king of that. It's, oh, I relapse because of this. and it's their fault, and it's his fault, it's her fault, it's everybody's fault but mine. When in hindsight, it's my own fault. Not all of it, like I said, use the 50-50 approach. You literally cannot go wrong in the 50-50 approach, because you're allowing yourself and you're allowing other people empathy, but you're also holding a firm base, and you're keeping your dignity, or you're staying firm for someone who needs you to stay firm while showing them compassion. And it's a very, very difficult seesaw to kind of like balance. I do believe if you and them people around you can get it right, there's always hope. Now, the worst thing an addict can say is, I am a recovered. You're always going to be a recovering addict. Doesn't matter what it is, drink, drugs, sex, anything. I've got an addictive personality. If wood was addictive, I'd be addicted to wood. Luckily, I never got into drugs. Now, drugs would have probably finished me off, because of my very, very addictive personality. So I'm gonna surmise this video, because like I said, I want to make it brief because I just want to give a general outlook. An addiction is an addiction when it's getting in the way of normal life. You can be a functioning addict. Addictions can include drugs, so like class A's, class B's, class C's. It can be alcohol, which brought out now will be a class A, and alcohol is probably the worst of them all. Even smoking, even though it doesn't change your behaviour, although some say it might, because without the nicotine in your body, you're quite irritable. That's an addiction. Sex is an addiction. Gambling. I want to go into my gambling addiction in great detail in a video, probably in the next week or so. Because that's my own personal. I would like to give a detailed enough kind of timeline of my own addiction and how I've dealt with it and the strain it's caused on relationships. Because addiction, that's one thing addiction does. It does cause strain on relationships, and they don't always have to even include you. It can be an innate family member enabling you, and because they're enabling you, they think they're doing the right thing. But then there could be someone of your family who sees that that's enabling and stays firm, and your addiction is causing them to fall out. So you can see all this different swings and roundabouts to addiction. So 50-50, DNA, show empathy, please. Allow yourself empathy. Allow others suffering addictions empathy. The other 50%, what you can control. Don't use your addiction as an excuse. Don't use your addiction as an excuse. Oh, well, I did it for this reason, or this person, or excuses, And again, take it from someone who knows. excuses are we're the king of excuses. It's never anyone else's fault, and it's important to look in that mirror and finally, I'll say reach out again. Even though this video's been relatively brief compared to my others, because it was just I quickly wanted to touch upon addiction because of a recent gambling loss of mine. But be kind, be firm, and my inbox is always open. I've covered the foundations to addiction. I will be exploring it in a lot more detail in more videos, but for now, I've laid them foundations and hopefully I've given you something to work with. Until next time, goodbye.